Hello and welcome to Bit Heroes Radio. I'm World Eater, thrilled to be hosting this podcast with Bitverse Andy.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Bitverse Andy here. Absolutely phenomenal intro, World. Oh, man. But yeah, welcome to episode 10 of Bit Heroes Radio. Crazy to hear that we're hitting double-digit numbers here. I actually just noticed that. That's kind of wild. Jumping into the agenda, today we're going to talk over some recent news, and then we'll go over our main topic. And today we're going to be covering underrated familiars. Then we'll jump straight into fashion heroes, viewer questions, and then we've actually got a juicy brand new segment this week that, you know, if you guys love it, might stick around, and that is going to be the comment of the week. So yeah, we got a great episode for you guys today.
Very hype, very hype indeed. Honestly, super hype for all the things going on. Right now, we're going to go ahead and get into the new level 1Ks that have come into the game. We do have 3 that we're going to be announcing right now, so congrats to these 3 guys here. First off, we're going to kick it off with Jarvis. Jarvis, honestly, super awesome player. I used to talk to him all the time. I still do here and there. Really cool guy, and it's nice to see him in the 1K club, honestly.
Yep, big congrats to Jarvis. I think a couple weeks back, or a while back, Jarvis was like, "Hey, I'm pushing to 1K," and so it's really hyped to see him there. So congrats, Jarvis.
And up next, sorry, it's here. Yeah, up next, we also have Navi, which is 1001. Honestly, not too sure how long Navi's been in the 1K, but they are one of the newer ones, it seems. So congratulations, Navi. Navi is in the Guild Enmity, and yeah, they're fairly new to the 1K, so congrats, Navi.
Big GZ Navi.
And for one player that all of us may know, I know Andy knows him, I know him, a lot of people know him, Gilgamesh. Gilgy, honestly, it's really cool to see you here at 1K. Huge congratulations. In my opinion, you are one of the biggest players in the game. You've helped me so much in the past, and thank you so much for just being an awesome player. Congrats again.
Yeah, Gilgy is super well known, especially I see him all the time in the Discord. So big congrats on 1K, Gilgy. Well deserved. And I do want to give a little bonus shout out. You know, it might not be 1,000, but World Eater hitting the big 900, dude.
Beast. Yeah.
And
the 900s.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And before everybody comments it, World, I got to ask, when 1K?
Soon enough. That's my answer. Soon enough.
Well, yeah, good luck if you do make that push. It's crazy how much XP you need in that final 100. I mean, gosh, it just goes up and up and up. So best of luck.
Yeah, I'm like barely halfway there, I think, a little over halfway there. So here goes another journey. Yeah. Pretty much starting over, but it's fine. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah, and the last bit of news here for today is that there's rumors, and I guess, it's been, 25 or 26 weeks since Tier 21 came out, so everybody's been speculating that Tier 22 will come out in March. On our end, we have heard nothing from the content creator program, no leaks to be had, so, hopefully it'll come this month. I could see it coming still in March. It's, March 4th at the time of this recording.
I really do hope it comes in March, but just seeing all the changes that are going on recently, I feel like it might be a little towards April. Really hope it's March, because we do need something. Even if it's a new world boss, we just need something. So very excited. I am very happy that we are getting closer to that time, though. So here's to Tier 22.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I totally, if there was ever a tier that would be delayed, it's probably Tier 22, just with, the developers changing hands and the community manager changing hands. There's been a lot of changes in, like, Bit Heroes staff. So if there's ever a delay, this is probably the tier, which, isn't too pleasant to hear as players, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I did want to say something about that real quick. Try not to ask so many questions like, when is all this coming to all the devs or the community managers, guys? We did just have some new guys come in, so they are trying to get caught up with everything, and I'm pretty sure we will be hearing from them very soon. I recently did meet Adrian, really awesome community manager, really cool guy. So I do have high hopes for the near future for Bit Heroes.
I would almost say the complete opposite. Make sure you're pressuring them. Maybe even threatening. Use everything at our disposal here to get these tiers turned out, guys. You got to really, to get hard
Arson,
steel, you got to put it through the flame. You know what I mean?
for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and head on into our main topic. Andy and I wanted to talk about underrated familiars.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you play the game, if you ask like a pro player or a veteran player, um, they'll say, okay, well, start off with Borland and Shramps, then go get Glarzdos or Alatus, then get Tetius. Yeah, yeah. But, not only are they not always like the easiest familiars to get, but in some ways, like there's way, but in some cases, there's way easier familiars that either do just as good of a job or if not better. So we wanted to, and this will mostly be World Eater because I'm much less familiar with, familiar with familiars. Didn't even try that one than he is. So I'm gonna ask World a few questions here, and he's going to be our expert on the off meta underrated familiars.
I got you. I got you. Ask away.
So, just starting off, and this is one that I'm super like. I actually am curious because I need to start making some of these. What DPS familiars would you recommend?
Okay, so there are a handful of sleeper picks that I have. I'm going to start off with a fairly mid-game, very entry-level, easy to make, with future-proof, familiar, and that's going to be Rampante. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right, but they are going to be a very, very solid epic DPS that you can access as soon as Gugaman's Vault, which I do believe. Let me check here real quick. It's going to be in tier 8. Yeah. So once you get there, Rampante is going to be a great, great familiar to farm. You just need Dr. Burdot and Gugamans to make them, along with 50k gold. The reason I like them is because they come with 7.5% electric damage, but they also have 15% speed, and their stat spread is heavily in speed. So that's one of the few familiars in that time in the game that has that much speed and you can actually utilize him. But the only problem with him is you would have to be bait yourself since there aren't many baits at that period that can bait for Rampante. So if you're a bait player or a tank that can swap to bait, Rampante is a very, very nice epic fam that'll get you through the mid game really easily. Um, Another one I would recommend, something that's more late game that you could still farm from tier 1 actually, is going to be Go Peachy. Go Peachy, Gopichi, not sure how you pronounce it, but they are an insane, insane fam that is just slept on. Go Peachy is a tier 21 fam, there it is, that requires one legendary familiar, which is Gobiyaki, which is funnily enough another tier 21 familiar that's fused with Gabi, and they also take an epic familiar from the tier 21 raid. But they're just super, super solid. Something about them, like their whole kit is just insane, honestly, compared to everyone else's. I personally would put Gopichi out of all the familiars, mythic, epic, legendary, and all, in third place for the best DPS fams. So not only are they super easy to make and can you just farm them from the very beginning, they're also extremely viable in the most current D4, which in my opinion is the hardest one since Clover release. So there's that. Kopichi is honestly very strong. 7.5 quad strike, 50% crit chance, and the first attack against them is deflected. They also have Corrupt and Bleed and Fury in their kit. So they're extremely viable in so many scenarios.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about Capiche or however you pronounce it, and you said that they were one of the only 4 DPS familiars that's confirmed to be able to beat the most recent D4. So definitely underrated and clearly very powerful. So, out of curiosity, do you know the 4 familiars that can, or DPS familiars that can beat the D4?
Yes, I know 4, and I know a 5th DPS that I think that could possibly do it, which is also another pick, by the way, for a sleeper fam. So first place, Lurky. clearly. First place is going to be
Classic,
Lurky.
yeah.
Second place, believe it or not, is going to be Gopeachy, tied with Volthai, because I've heard so many things about both. So Volthai is third, which is tied with second for Gopeachy, and then fourth is Kazolum. I've only known a few people that passed it with Kazolum, and a lot of people say it's harder with him, but it's still possible. So that's 3 mythic fams and a legendary, one of which I just mentioned right now that is very easy to craft. So the only problem is you don't get them until tier 21.
Right.
But for the fifth one that I really do think can actually, pull through, it's going to be, let me get them up here real quick, is actually going to be Fenry. Fenry is insanely solid. They're a legendary fusion used to make Lurky, and they come with 30% crit chance and 10% chance of purification. But the reason they're solid is not just because of what they come with, it's because their stat in agility is actually faster or very close to Lurky's, and they have the perfect kit for that, which is attack weakest. So as long as you have attack weakest, you can do it. The only problem is they also have attack weakest and attack strongest, or attack weakest and attack furthest. So you don't want to be hitting too many multiple targets in that D4, but he still has a target attack that can do it as well. So those are 3 DPS familiars that I honestly recommend, which is going to be Rampante, Gopeachy, and Fenry. They're super slept on, all 3 of them, and very, very, very viable.
Yeah, wow. No, the Gobichi he's seriously on my list. Like, to put it simply, he's got to be easier to grind than Lurky or Volvi. So,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
hey, I mean, if you're going for, you said Fenry is on the way to Lurky, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going for Lurky, might as well just, stay at Fenry for a while, or at least use them in the meantime. So that's actually a really good thing to know, because someday I might go for Lurky. That's a good tip. Thanks, World.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people, for some reason, they'll make one of each and then make a Lurky just to have that one Lurky, so they'll feel like, okay, I'm almost there. But it's actually a lot wiser to just max out Fenry first and then work on everybody else. There's other viable fams for Lurky, which I'll bring up another one here in a while when you ask me a few more questions.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Fenry is definitely one of these slept on familiars.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, let's move on to what tank familiars would you recommend?
There's actually a lot of tank familiars I would recommend, but I'm going to narrow it down to 2 or 3, and it's just because they don't get enough attention, in my opinion. The first one, I'm actually going to be making a video on them sometime this week, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be Drelvy. Drelvy is honestly super solid, and the only way to get them, unfortunately, is going to be during Expedition. And it's going to be in the Battle Bards Expedition on the middle one, which is Bitstock. Bitstock drops it. It also drops the materials needed. But the thing is, Drovey is so good, and I just don't know why people aren't building them. Drovey only takes, here, let me get the schematic out. Drovey literally only takes 2 Dryad, which you can farm in
Oh,
tier
yeah.
1, 2 Dryad, and 150 rare material from that event. That's
That's a
nothing.
piece
And
of cake.
100k gold. And yeah, and he has 30 base evade.
The gold might be the hardest grind there.
Yeah, the gold's the hardest grind, but the thing is, it comes eventually. You don't have to look for it like you do with
Right.
other items. It just naturally comes. And the thing with Drelvy is they have a 0 SP shield self, so they're not forced to attack at all, making them
Oh, yeah.
D4 viable. They're very, very nice. They have a little bit too much agility, but that's fine, because I never think it's bad if you're still going to be, shielding yourself. You're not going to be attacking. You're going to be keeping yourself alive. So it's not a bad thing. It's okay. Are they better than Teeth? No. Are they the best tank? No. But they're one of the easiest tanks to make that you can start farming the moment you start the game, and they'll take you all the way to tier 21, and that's a promise. Like, they are that good.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that's the
surprised
first one.
how cheap that is. And one thing that you mentioned, and it's actually so important in like PvP, or like when you're facing like Lucky Witchums, is not being forced to attack the enemy is sometimes so crucial when you're up against, maybe there's a D4 enemy that has a crazy when hit brain that will just rock your socks. So sometimes you want to
Definitely.
avoid hitting them at all costs. And yeah, that is a super underrated little part of a lot of kits. So yeah.
Definitely. Like something that I look for in any familiar, not just DPS, not just healers, not just tanks, every familiar is if they're forced to attack for that reason. Because the later game you get, I'd say past tier 16, around tier 16, you start seeing these brains, these pets, stuff like that in the enemy's modifiers for certain types of content or past a certain number in a certain area of content. And that's when it gets a lot harder, not just a little harder. You feel the end game come in. You feel it. So you don't want to attack someone that has an attack team brain when they get hit because they'll probably wipe you out because you even touched them. So I completely agree with Andy's statement there. So definitely something to look out, which makes Drelvy shine even more. So for the next tank that I want to go over, the only reason I like this tank is because one, they go into a decent, keyword decent, mythic familiar, which I believe is going to be ThunMoff? Let me see here. Yes,
Oh.
it's going to be ThunMoff. So they are going to be a tank that goes into a ThunMoff fusion, which is going to be Bruegaya. Bruegaya is honestly super, super strong. Like, I think they're one of the easiest tanks to make. They only take 50 raid rare material, 100k gold, and 3 Bagabayas and 3 Chiragos, which is pretty mid game. I think it's 12 and 15 around those tiers where you can farm those. And that means you don't need any raid raid fams. You just need flag fams. And that's one of the few familiars that has, a viable kit, a viable set of bonuses that doesn't take raid familiars or any crazy world boss mats. So he comes with 15% damage reduction, which isn't crazy, but he is a tank, so he can take more hits. And 5% deflect. Now, you're not going to build deflect on him, You can build deflect on him and then use like damage reduction chip, making him a little niche for like a deflect fam if you wanted to get some deflect in. But his damage reduction is where he shines. So his kit comes with deals fire damage and drain from target enemy. You already have a target, which is great as a 0 SP. You also have another 0 SP, which is shield self. So just
Oh
like
yeah.
Drelvy before,
Very
you are
nice.
not forced to attack. They also have combust in their kit to weakest. Drain from all enemies. Drain all enemies is great mid game or against enemies that won't proc when you get hit offensive brains. So you can keep yourself alive with that. And they're 3 SP, not worth using. So no, 3 SPs are usually not worth using on most tanks because you'll never get to use them. But they're super solid. And like I said, they go into ThunMoff, which is a fantastic mythic bait. I like him a lot. And he looks really swag right next to Lurky because they have like kind of the same armor type. They look pretty similar. So it's pretty cool to have them side by side on a team.
Yeah, and hey, you guys know cosmetics, even on your familiars, even on your team, I should say, with the familiars you have, is very important. So that's cool.
Yeah, you'll beat your enemies for sure that way. Definitely.
Speaking of bait familiars, why don't we dive into some underrated bait familiars?
I'm down. I'm down. Let's see here. So I do know quite a bit of bait familiars. One of them is getting a little less underrated, getting a little talked about now. That's going to be AstroGoby, another Gobi fusion. Just in case you don't want that DPS and you really want a Lurgy, AstroGoby for me got me past, I believe, tier 19 D4
Oh
and
wow.
replaced my Ignatus Raw in a lot of scenarios. And
Wow.
that's a big thing to say
Yeah,
for a
that's
legendary to
crazy.
do. Yeah, so Astro Gabi, very, very strong. First of all, he takes one Gabi, but 175 rare floppy disk, which is, I believe, tier 20 or tier 19 raid material, and 200k gold. So he's a little pricey on the gold, but by then you'll be getting in gold a lot easier, hopefully. Gold is kind of an issue. Just going over him real quick, he has 20% air resistance. Now, why is that nice? Well, Pashima, one of the tier 21 DPS sets, is an air set that is devastatingly strong, in my opinion. So you already have resistance against that. Witcham, one of the most
Oh,
overused sets in the
yep.
world, is air. So you already have more air resistance against that. And a lot of enemies that you come across in flags have air damage, believe it or not. You actually go against a lot of air damage enemies. So he's very good for flag progression as well. He comes with 40% block, and that's the one thing about him that just makes me a little sad. because you have to use 2 mythic block pumps, 30% each, by the way, just to max him out. If you don't have 2 mythic, you have to use 3 legendary. So he is a little pricey to build, but if you get those 2 mythic pumps, you'll be able to fit anything you want in the third. Damage reduction, empower, evade if you wanted to, damage, if that's all you have, whatever you want. You can even add speed if you wanted. Some people like adding speed. This sounds weird, but some people add speed. You can add so many things as that third pump. You don't have to put block at all. I personally use damage reduction because it pairs well with the damage reduction chips. But I did want to talk about his bonus text on the bottom. He does heal by 10% max HP at the start of their turn, which is why people build speed.
Oh, yeah.
So he comes around a little sooner, like his turn comes a little sooner, so he heals 10%. And that is what's good about him. I use a heal power chip on him. Not entirely sure yet if that heals 10% affects it. I doubt it because it says 10%, which means it's more than likely a set value. But he does have a shield self 1 SP. And the only gripe I have to say about AstroGoby is he has to attack. He has to attack the weakest, but it's 3 times, and it's a root ability. So if you're attacking the weakest and the weakest has I don't know, attack team when they get hit, you're gonna proc that brain possibly 3 times.
3 times. Yeah, gosh.
So he's strong, but you have to be careful where you take him. But he is very, very good in most places. I haven't had any issues with him in TG. He is my go-to familiar that's bait in Trials Gauntlet. He is my go-to bait. So he is definitely my Trials Gauntlet familiar. He also looks really cool. I think he's one of the coolest looking gobbies. But another bait, which is something that I was talking about earlier, is actually a Lurky fusion that most people don't talk about, and I don't know why. He's really, really solid, very strong, and he looks pretty cool at the same time. His name's Torg. He has a very decent stat spread. He has a little too much agility. I know a lot of people don't like that. Here we go again about that. But he's really strong. 30% electric resistance, 2.5 absorb chance. So he kind of reminds me a little bit of, Klarsdos almost. Yeah. But he's pretty nice. At my total stats, he has 18k stamina. And let's see what he is compared to Glars. Glars in my stats has 22k. So you can see here that he does fill that bait roll a lot, more comfortably than Glars does at this TS. So he's very viable.
He'll be able to bait for lower health damage dealers. Yep.
Yeah, so he's just solid all around. And just going into his kit, you can just build damage reduction on him. I recommend just damage reduction on him, nothing else. So he's very easy to build. Legendary, mythic, whatever you can. You could put a heal chip on him or a damage reduction chip, whatever you think will help. He has 2 0 SPs, one being a target enemy and shock, and the other one being a shield self. He also has a heal target 1 SP, and he also has a damage closest 2 times and shock 1 SP. So he has very, very good moves, and he's very viable. People just don't use him for the same reason as Fenry. They just automatically use him to make Lurkies. So he unfortunately is overshadowed. Yeah, but trust me, if you guys just make these max amount and use them as you progress, these guys will help you do some crazy content that you probably wouldn't have been able to do before, instead of just making one Lurky at a time and missing out. So he's very, very good.
And I don't know if it applies, but when I made my multiple Tetheus or Tethii, however you want to say the plural Tetheuses.
School of Tethys?
Yeah. So I literally saved up all the familiars and materials I needed to get 6 of them at once. And now I'm wondering, crap, I wonder if any of those legendaries were actually useful that whole time that I could have had and been using.
There's one that's okay, but he's okay. So you didn't really miss too much. And that would be, let me see here, Kraken. He's like a decent healer style DPS, but he's nothing crazy. So you didn't miss out too much. But yeah.
Okay, good. No, good to know for Lurky though, because he's on the to grind list someday. So.
Yeah, he's on a lot of lists. He's the DPS. In my opinion, people have their own opinions on this, but I think he's the best DPS in the game, and in my opinion, I think he's hands down the best DPS in the game.
Ooh, dang. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, challenge me in the comments, please. I want to know your opinions.
Well, moving on from Bates here, and some people call this role like support, some people call it healer, some people would differentiate the two, but some underrated support or healer familiars.
Okay, so the thing about support and healer familiars, right, is they come very late game for the good ones. There are some decent ones that I'll go over that are mid game. For example, most of the time, by the way, familiars that I recommend usually go into better familiars. So if you don't hear me say a certain one, it's because, well, it's kind of the end of the line there, which is what I don't like recommending. If it's the end of the line, it has to be best of the best. So for my first recommendation, it's going to be Vilcio. And the reason I like them is because you can access them extremely early in the mid game. And they're used by one of the community's most favorite familiars, Euclid. Euclid is one of the go-to DPS familiars that's very easy to make if you just camp tier 12 for just a little bit. And he goes into Vilcio, which goes into Kimusaba, which to me is a must-make Mythic fam if you plan to be in tier D4s. He's unmatched, so he's very viable. But going back to Vilcio, his kit comes with 10% electric damage and 30% heal power. Now, he has a lot of heal power just off the bat. You don't even have to put a heal power chip, but if you do, you're going to be healing from 0 to full on like everything. So he's great. Slept on familiar for sure. I know some people have him built, but he's not really used for PvP or anything like that. He's only used for flag progressions, and you can try him in D4. So he's great, but the thing I'm going to say about this before I keep going is support and healer fams are very niche. So you have to find the content where you need them. It might not even be now, it might be in a later tier where they'll shine, but one thing about healers is they get to take advantage of per turn, and they don't have to deal with attacking. Most of the time they can just heal. Unfortunately, Vilcio is forced to attack weakest. That's his only 0 SP, but most of them are able to do a heal 0 SP, which is why you would want to use one to avoid proccing any brains and using true damage as your damage. So support and healer fams shine in that aspect, but that's the problem. But going back to Vilcio, sorry about that. They have a heals target teammate and cleanse 2 times, so it's very nice. I don't know the point of cleansing twice, but healing them twice with that heal power will definitely get them full. It's really nice. They also have another 1 SP, which is electric damage to a target enemy and shock. Very solid. They have a spread shield and spread heal teammates for 2 SP, and a cleanse target and spread heal for a 3 SP. So they're very supporty, very healer-like, and they go into Kimusaba. Very underrated familiar that people just don't talk about, that I think is really, really good. Personally, I would make him if I didn't already make Kimusaba with him. So he's very, very strong. But yes, he does go into other familiars, making him even better. If you wanted to talk about more recent familiars, I do know Stratolumbus, or however you pronounce her name, is a fantastic, easy to make support that is just insane. They have gives team 10% enrage, SP regeneration, electric damage, and water resistance. So just having him on your team buffs you and himself. So if you run 4 of him, you have 40% enrage, 40% SP regeneration, 40% electric damage, and 40% water resistance, making your whole team not only strong, but tanky and just more efficient with that enrage and SP regen. He comes with a forced attack, unfortunately, which is damage to the closest enemy and heals weakest teammate, so that heal power chip will come in handy. He also deals electric damage to target enemy and shocks them twice.
Wow.
Very, very good. With dual strike, you can instantly proc an EMP. So he is very strong, especially at my total stats. He has 67,000 agility, making him one of the faster familiars. So he is very, very good. His health pool is at 21,000, so he can fill a bait role if you want him to, or he can fill a DPS role since it's around that area. It just depends on who you use. He, in my opinion, is a little bit of an everything. I can do everything familiar. So if you're looking for one familiar to just heal, support, do damage, take damage, you can build him however you want. His moves are insane. After that 1 SP, there's another 1 SP that's heals target teammate and cleanse. There's a support aspect of him and the healer aspect of him. He also has a 2 SP shield target and transform the next heal or next damage into a heal. So he has
Oh
an
yeah, that
insane
one.
kit. Yeah, and his 3 SP deals electric damage to the furthest enemy and shock. Give 2 SP to target teammate. He is
Say,
literally insane.
I've got one question, and I'm hoping you know. For those abilities or like bonuses or whatever that turns the next damage into healing, do you know if that works for like true damage or like if someone's pet is attacking me, would it turn that into healing?
I don't really know the
Huh.
answer to that. I don't believe it does, but that's why that's a really good question. I really don't know.
Well, if you're listening to this and you know, leave a comment.
Please, I'd
Yeah,
actually like to know.
you know. A new segment, comment answers. Good questions. Dang, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah. Because that'd be a bigger deal if it turns around pet damage.
Yeah, I really would. So I might actually start testing that. I have 4+5 Stratal, I think, unless I use them. But yeah, those are going to be my recommendations. There's plenty of other familiars I could recommend. If you want more recommendations, just ask me in the comments, and I'll try to recommend what I can. But those are the ones I really like to talk about the most when it comes to an underrated or easy fam to use or replace another familiar with. So those are going to be my recommendations personally.
So yeah, definitely a lot of new familiars that I either haven't heard of or was just considering like, oh, that's on the way to Lurky or whatever. So yeah, really, really good stuff, world. I do have one bonus question that
Okay.
that I have to ask is if you had to play the early game again, but you could not use Borland or Shramps, who would you use?
Funny enough, on my main account, I didn't use Borland or Shramps when I first started. I didn't know what to do, and I found my own way. Um, so I definitely have an answer to that. For my replacement for Borland, I actually used Namen, which is pretty decent. If you just look at his kit, he comes with base 30% crit chance.
Oh
He's
wow,
decent.
yeah.
He has a pretty decent stat spread as well. He's not too squish. He's not too slow. He's not too weak. He's like a great middle ground, solid, rare familiar. He has a 0 SP closest and a 1 SP damage to all enemies. So if you just slap a offensive brain on him, he
Right.
can do
Just
some
damage
pretty
all. Yeah.
decent damage. Yeah, for starting the game, he does it, and he also has a 2 SP heals target teammates. So he may not heal as much as Borland, but he can still do what Borland does. A little better in the damage aspect, but not as much in the heal aspect. So he's a pretty solid starter. If you wanted to try something else, but I still recommend Borland. Don't you dare get away from Borland. For the
That's
tank,
nice.
though, I don't know why. Probably because it was easier and faster to get. I used Bubbo. Sorry, I used Bubbo, and I used all damage reduction on him. Luckily enough, I remember that I was able to get 3 epic damage reduction pumps at the very beginning of my start, and it helped so much. Just slapping him on Bubbo was so nice, and the reason I like using him on him is because you don't have to worry about brains at the beginning of the game. Problem with him is he doesn't have a 1 SP. He has a 0 SP, which is closest, and then it goes straight to a 2 SP. So without those heals from Borland or Namen or yourself, if you don't get that 2 SP to drain health from all enemies as his second, his sustain is kind of weak. So Straps is definitely the way to go, but Bubbo was my tank. You could also do other things, like I know some people use Mr. Bob, but being a rare familiar with a Vachance is pretty scary. So it really just depends. But those are the two that I would use when I first started that are way easier to make than someone like Squibbo or Yobo. So those are other rare familiars that you can try.
That's actually funny because I too was a Bubbo user. Actually, I used to have Bubbo and Borland, so I did fall upon Borland and realized his usefulness. But yeah, I was a Bubbo enjoyer as well. So that's funny.
He's cool. He looks cooler than Shramps, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah,
But yeah, he's not as viable. But
but
he's still pretty cool. He's pretty cool.
nothing but love to Tramps, though. I gotta say that.
Oh yeah, Shramps. He's the main. He's goaded.
Well, yeah. So
And
that's pretty much all we had for questions and everything on the underrated familiars. Any last minute things you want to say there, or any last minute topics on familiars you wanted to touch on?
one last thing I want to say is, if you're looking for familiars, the best thing to do. There's two things you can do. One, ask. Just ask people. Ask me. Ask anybody, whether it's in world chat, Discord, YouTube comment section. Make sure you subscribe to Andy. Um, but
Thank you.
also, make sure you future path everything you do in this game. Um, Believe it or not, a lot of people don't do that. They say they do, and those people that say they do still don't do it. If you're making a familiar, like Rampante, for example, he goes into an awesome legendary familiar, which is the familiar I just talked about, Stratolumbus, a while ago. And Stratolumbus, let's see here. Stratolumbus goes into Volthai, which is arguably third or fourth best DPS in the game. He also goes into a legendary bait, which is Flippulus, which is a nice block and vampirism bait. So that's what I mean about future proofing. You want to make sure the epic familiar you make goes into something more viable later on. Don't just make Remit. I know a lot of people like Remit, but I'm sorry, guys. Remit, Garbo. Don't make him. Hot take, Garbo. And he's not
I might
bad
have to
as in
stand up for
Garbo.
Remit there. He did good.
Remit's good, okay? He's great. Trust me, he's really good. But the problem with Remit is they don't have any future proofing, like good future proofing. I know they go into another familiar, I think, if I can remember correctly. Probably not. I don't remember. But it's just their legendary fusion just isn't good. Let me double check that real quick. Remit. Yeah, they go into Remruade, which was meta back when tier 10, tier 9 was the newest tier, but that's like long gone. So I highly recommend just not making Remit as easy as they are to make, unless you're just trying to zoom by and not even enjoy the game, not play the game, just zoom by and make the most basic familiars you can. I don't recommend him. I like planning ahead for a better familiar to upgrade. So just try to upgrade what you have already. Trust me, it's better. Future pathing. Trust.
Dang, I'm almost shedding a tear here for Glarzdos, but I hold out hope that Glars Trace will enter the game. Maybe tier 22.
Oh god. Hopefully it takes like 10 Glarsdos each.
That'd
Oh,
be
you know what they can do?
crazy.
A Glarsdos Alatus Mythic Fusion.
Oh. Oh, that'd be disgusting, but it'd probably be so good.
Yeah, because Glarsdos is in it, that's what makes it disgusting. But if Alatus
No,
was
wait, hold
in
on.
it,
Hold
oh,
on.
if Alatus was in it, that would be amazing. Imagine 25 damage reduction and 30 evade
That would
with
actually, oh my god.
Alatus's health pool.
That would actually bridge like such a gap in the Alatus versus Glarstos wars. Wow.
Oh yeah, everyone would just be like Alatus and Glarsdos stands. They wouldn't even be one side.
Exactly. But until then, we fight.
Until then, Alatus reigns supreme.
No, 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 no. Gonna have to cut that.
You would.
Okay, so moving on. And yeah, again, thanks, world. That was actually like super insightful. So I appreciate you just having that knowledge and sharing it. To noob
Anytime.
like us and in the audience. Um, yeah, moving on. We're gonna move on to fashion heroes. So last week we had Persuade You versus Soapsy in the Soapsy Redemption arc, and the winner
Drumroll, please.
was Soapsy. So big congrats to Soapsy. Huge congrats to all the Soapsy stands out there that wanted to see the redemption. So yeah, congrats again,
Yeah,
Soapsy.
I wore my Soapsy shirt just for that, my jersey. I was rooting for you, bro. I was rooting for you. All right, and for this week's Fashion Heroes, we actually have two contestants, but one of them is not new. They're actually a previous champion, and we're going to start off with them first. That's going to be Pocket Apple. Pocket Apple honestly looks really, really sick. I really like those wings on him, and I just love the yellow mist coming out from his mount. It matches the flames, and the wings just looks really clean. Very, very nice, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm getting like an evil dark overlord. And I see the Astaroth pet. You guys know I love Astaroth. Very like evil, sick, awesome, powerful build. I will say the armory name Fashion Heroes kind of gets me too.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Looks
awesome.
really clean. I love that the red eyes from the Astaroth pet or Asti matches the aura from his main hand as well. So every color
Yeah,
that's used is just matched with something. The eyes from his mount is red. The eyes from him is yellow, matching his wings and the flames. The mist coming out or the breath coming out from his mount is yellow, matching everything. So it's just a very, very nice cosmetic that to me just meshes very well together.
totally, totally. And then Pocket Apple, the reigning previous champion's opponent today, will be Athena. So here we got Athena. Now I'm seeing a few books here, kind of like a bookworm vibe. You can see the accessory, the main hand, and offhand, all two tomes, I should say.
Honestly, really like this one too. If you just pay attention to it and just really look at it, most of the colors are all like intertwined with each other as well, which is what's really cool about this entry. Both of them are pretty good contestants for this. This one has a nice kind of cyan green blue color and a little bit of red going on. There's some gold. It's really nice. I love the blue light emitting up. It kind of matches the armor as well. It's really very cohesive, very nice. And the book theme, again, is super clean. Really hard to tell which one is better this week because I think both of them are pretty strong.
I know, and I will say this: a lot of people do dress up as sort of like the Astaroth or like that darker vibe, and this one that Athena brings up, this sign, like I don't think I've seen that book pet or like that headpiece, so it's pretty unique, I would say. So yeah, we of
Gonna be
course can't
close.
decide. Oh, go ahead.
I was just like, it's gonna be close.
Yeah. There you go. Of course, we can't decide who's gonna win. So please, guys, if you have a vote for who you want to see win this episode's Fashion Heroes, go ahead and drop a comment in down below the video.
Honestly, this is gonna be really close, but go ahead and leave your answer for who you think is gonna win this week's Fashion Heroes. Unfortunately, we can't vote. I personally like both of them, so I would just vote for both of them. So it's up to you guys to definitely leave that comment in the video. If you guys wanted to say it was Pocket Apple, say why. If you wanted to vote for Athena, say why as well. That way we can know exactly the reason why you chose their. That way we know the exact reason why you chose them as the winner for this Fashion Heroes.
Yes, definitely please vote down below. And also, if you guys want a chance to be in the next episode's Fashion Heroes, leave your hero tag in the chat and say something, or not in the chat, in the comments, and say something like, I want to be in the next episode's Fashion Heroes. And we'll make sure to consider you for the next episode.
Definitely. The more the merrier. Honestly, we've been trying to get everyone that says they want to be in the episode. So if you put your name there, chances are eventually you'll be in an episode. So hopefully we see you in one of the future Fashion Heroes segments.
All right. Now moving on to a couple of viewer questions here. This first one comes to us from Smallbrain6578, who asks, if I'm using an endgame / near endgame DPS set like Einar set, would I want more attack, more speed, or have them evened out?
Well, I'm not much of a DPS main. I have actually been dabbling into DPS a lot recently. Towards the end game, you really want a little more speed than damage, just depending on the set that you're using. For ANR, I really do love that it's kind of like a really hard hitting set. And I would say to have a lot of speed, but don't have too little strength to where you'll kind of be tickling them, have a little bit of strength. But for most builds, you would like a majority of speed with as low health as you can go, at least to where your bait can still bait for you.
Yeah. So, as the resident DPS expert, the one time I'll be able to say that, um, it is situational, depends on the set and depends on your opponent. But in general, speed is king. Where they can get you hurt. So like, okay, let me restart that. Speed is generally better when you're stacking things like EMPs or combusts or freezes because you want that third or fourth proc to actually occur before you get killed. Or, the sooner it pops, the sooner you could kill the enemy, the sooner they're not doing damage to you, that kind of thing. Where it can get a little dicey is if you're facing, let's just say you're facing a Lucky Witchem user, the more speed you have means the less power you have. And if you're going to hit them for, let's just say like 10 damage and they're going to heal for 20 back at you, it's going to be pointless to hit them if their pet is healing them for more than you're hitting for. So make sure you're, not hitting them with a wet noodle. So definitely stack some power, but generally speed is preferred to be higher. I think a lot of late game players will say like, do you know the ratio?
They usually put like 3 pieces of armor in speed, 1 in health, and then the rest in damage. It really depends on the mount they use. If there's more damage in the mount, they'll probably put 1 more piece in the speed. If there's more health in the mount, they'll probably put 1 more point in damage or speed, just depending on what they need. But the idea is you want to have your speed at the highest, your strength at the second highest, and your health at the lowest. Just make sure, again, that your bait, whether it's a familiar or player, can bait for you. And try to have it lower than just a few hundred HP, because if you accidentally get tickled by a brain proc, you will be the weakest and you'll just get obliterated.
Yep, I was gonna say while we're talking stats, make sure you have more health than your bait tank. Yep, exactly. Right on, world.
So moving on to this next question, we do have from Jean Jacques 4775. Sorry if I butchered that. Not the best at speaking. Is Eucalyptus required to fuse Volthi? So just looking at the familiars, if you go to the fusion and you just type in Eucalyptus, if you have all the schematics, which I do have most of them, you will see that unfortunately they do not. Eucalyptus is used to go into Vilcio, which again is used into going into Kimusaba. So they do go into an insanely awesome mythic familiar, but it is not going to be for Volthi. And the reason why people think that Volthi has a Eucalyptus fusion is because Volthi has Stratolumbus. And Stratolumbus has that same art style, color scheme, and everything as Vilcio. They're a dark cloud monster, just like Vilcio is a dark cloud fox. So unfortunately, no. Eucalyptus does not fuse into Volthi, but they do fuse into an amazing barrier tank.
Yeah, thanks for that, world. I have nothing to add. Yeah. All right. And now on to our brand new segment. This one will be quick, short, and sweet. We decided, to share some of the comments that aren't necessarily questions, but things we love to see down in the comments. So this week's comment of the week comes from actually this week's Fashion Heroes winner, Soapsy, Slippery Soapsy, who says, "Happy you're back. I love both of your channels. You're always fun to watch. You guys working together makes it so much more better." So thank you, Soapsy. Much appreciate the love down in the comments below.
For real, Soapsy. You're honestly one of the greats. You're an awesome follower. You're just pretty great. You're not just a viewer to me, you're also a friend in game, and you're just super awesome. I really appreciate the kind words, and just having you as one of my viewers makes it even better. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Dang, yeah. So that's going to be all for this episode of Bit Heroes Radio. Again, big milestone hitting episode 10. And I know it's been, a little bit of time in between some of those episodes, but we're starting to hit our stride here once again. So I want to thank everybody for listening to today's episode. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to myself, Bitverse_Andy, and World Eater. That is WRLD_EATR, both on YouTube, so you guys don't miss a single episode.
And one last thing before we head off, Bitverse Andy is actually very close to his first really huge milestone of 1K subs on YouTube. So if you haven't already, please consider leaving a subscription to Bitverse Andy. He definitely deserves it, guys. He is an amazing content creator. Not only just videos, but he does an awesome stream usually every weekend on Saturday, and it's just a blast to watch. So if you guys really enjoy the podcast, please consider subscribing to Bitverse Andy for sure, because he is extremely close to that 1K.
Wow, yeah, dude, thanks, World. I appreciate that, man.
Anytime. You deserve it. But that's going to be it for the episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. And honestly, we really appreciate having you guys here. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. If you guys just want to speak to us, talk to us, chat, hang out with us in the comments, or hey, join Bitverse Andy's awesome Discord. I'm always there. A lot of people are there, and it's just genuinely a really cool place. Hopefully I'll see you in one of Andy's streams soon or in the comment section. Thank you so much again, and have a good one.
Yeah, take care, everybody, and good luck with your grind. Hey, World, real quick, how much do I owe you for that shout out at the end?
No, nothing, man. You need it, bro. You're close. It's pissing me off.
Okay, anything else before I hit end recording here?
No, you're good.